Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. The pecking order is real. Now, check this out. Every now and then, I get some remedial person, and I do mean remedial, who they'll hear me say select and non-select and think I'm on some bullshit. And I'm just like, damn, where this person grow up at? Because, first of all, when I say select, non-select, there ain't no copywritten thing. And, I mean, that ain't something I made up. That's just the way I frame it. Other people will call it the 80-20 rule, alpha, beta, whatever. We'll just call it the pecking order. That covers everybody. And basically, it's basically a small group of men will monopolize the majority of women. They gonna get the majority of women gonna give this small group of men some attention. I mean, damn, even they've had studies that kind of confirm that. In fact, one of the earliest mentions I've seen of it is in this book I mentioned a couple times, Smart Women, Foolish Choices, copywritten 1986. And they talked about that. And these are two clinical psychologists that wrote that joint. They say it seemed like 80% of the women chasing 20% of the men. Like, these dudes are actually talking to women. They've done a study that said only 40% of men will pass their genes on into the future. In fact, there was another one. Somebody read, I seen it one. Some people been passing around on a video said that, like, in ancient times, only a small percentage of men made it anyway. Shoot. Okay, Cupid said 80% of the women on there only going for 20% of the men. I'm like, damn. But you still get some. It's amazing, but it's like sometimes I think some people want to be just contrary, or they really coping. They really ain't dealing with some realities, because even without any official confirmation of it, if you go, man, you've been seeing anybody who's paid attention. You could see that on a playground during recess. I don't know if they even have recess like they used to. But you used to, when they had recesses, somebody could tell me if they still do recesses. I don't ever remember my sons talking about it or something when they were in school, so maybe they don't, but I don't know. But you go in recess, or shoot, you can go in a daycare. I guarantee all the little girls gravitate towards only a few little boys, because little girls, they really get aggressive early. Shoot, recess, high school, grade school. They gravitate, and there's always going to be some guys who are going to be dominant. High school especially. College, shit. They're going to monopolize the woman. In any social circle, if you got men and women, it could be a job situation. Shout out Cousin T-Talk for that Office F-File video, because that's part of it. Women going to category, they're going to get together, decide who's who. There's a pecking order. And it's amazing. But you see, here's the issue. You get a small percentage of dudes out there, they are really just that socially clueless. And they want to believe it's, some fantasy, or there's something wrong with the women that these women don't want them. And it's like they can't see the obvious. Like, you can sit back. Like, if I go in any social situation where there's men and women, all I have to do is sit back for maybe 15 minutes. Depending on it's 15 minutes, I can tell you who's the dominant male or the dominant males. And I can tell you who's not the dominant males. But people don't get that. And it's really always been that. Because remember, a woman's nature, people misuse the term hypergamy. Because hypergamy just means going up in class. But it's come to mean just getting a better male or getting the best male. That's just a woman's nature. That's actually what they're supposed to do. And I don't have a problem with it. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. But that's what they supposed to do. Now, people feel like, the big argument is that many dudes feel like women ain't grabbing the best males. And from a social perspective, probably not. From a social perspective or cultural perspective. But like I said in one video, if something happened to society, there's an economic collapse. All of a sudden, socially, the ones who are called bad boys now, the thugs, the Pookie and Ray Rays, when you're in a situation where right makes might makes right, all of a sudden those thugs become very important. It'd be interesting if we have anybody on here who's from, shall we say, a failed state or someplace like Venezuela where the economy is tanked, to know what who the dominant men are then. Because when you're in a jacked up situation, the dominant men going to tend to be the warrior types, the ones who are willing to lay out a body. And shoot, you see that in neighborhoods now. But so it's more of a genetic thing. And of course it's tempered by the culture and social thing. But whatever the case, however you frame it and however the society is, like it can be more of a social thing, and the more, I'll use the word, more orderly a society is. It can be more of a social thing, but then as stuff break down more, it definitely becomes more pure genetic. But it's real regardless. Like, man, how come y'all can't see this? Like, there's a lot of stuff I say, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Some dudes didn't go outside when they were young, or they were like totally oblivious. Because you do got those people, what I call them, porch kids. Like even in the worst neighborhoods, it was always those kids who, you got all the kids outside playing, doing whatever. You always had those kids be some dudes. Their parents wouldn't let them come out. It wouldn't even be like the kids were like slow or anything. It'd just be the parents just didn't let them come out and play. Oh, especially when I was in Southeast DC when I was young, we had some kids like that. But the parents had them in public school. Probably didn't want them hanging out with the rest of us colored folks. Shoot. But yeah, that pecking order thing, man, that's really all it is. That's why really the best thing a man could do is really strive to become the best on all levels. If you got that social thing going, but you also had that physical thing going, you actually up your chances. Because both are going to be taken in consideration in a society. Now, depending on how orderly the society is, it'll go up and down. But really, the way this society is ordered, I would lean, you get the social side, but I would lean towards really developing the physical side. Because the women don't need you as socially like they once did. If a woman got her own house and car, all of a sudden the shit you bring in is not as important. That's a key thing. That's a key thing, but that's halfway another conversation. But that pecking order, it's fun. It's funny? It's funny, I would get some guys who argue with me, but they always a Carlton type. Always a Carlton type. Like I've done like some seminars and stuff, and you have either some, I'll just say uneducated dudes in there, or informally educated dudes, or like my favorite seminar of all time was when I had a bunch of guys and they were court ordered to be there. Oh man, the game they understood everything I had said perfectly. They understood everything I said perfectly. It wasn't a shock to them. They were telling me shit. I was like, damn. It was a good conversation. Oh, and the funny thing about that, all these dudes were, none of those dudes looked stereotypically like a Pookie. But anyway, yeah. Like I said, anybody, yeah, you know what? I think a lot of dudes just really need to stop fighting stuff and just see what's out there. You can see it. Just pay attention. Pay attention to the social dynamics. It shouldn't be a shock. If you pay attention, you go out and you just shut your ego down for a second. Shut your ego down for a second. Just see what's actually there. You'll see everything. So anyway, that's all I have for now. I'll talk to you later. Peace.